Math 7 Unit 8, Lesson 2, Part 2. In this video, we will talk about how to read box plots. Okay, first, just the basics of being able to read it. If you were asked for the median of a box plot, that is the location of the middle of the box, which in this case is 95. If you're asked for the range, this would be the overall range. This is the distance between the top and bottom values, which in this case would be 130 minus 85, which would be 45. So the range of this data in this box plot is 45. The upper quartile refers to quartile 3. If you were asked for the upper quartile, it's the top end of the box, which is 120. If you're asked for the lower quartile, that's quartile 1. It's the bottom end of the box, which in this case is 90. If you were asked for the interquartile range, that is asking how big the box is from the first quartile up to the third quartile, and you can just subtract that. The interquartile range here is 30. If you were asked for the extremes, extremes is just another name for the maximum and minimum together. The extremes here, the lowest is 85, the highest is 130. Those are the extremes. Give a range of numbers that contain 25% of the data. Now there are 4 correct answers here. 25% of the data exists between 85 and 90. Other answers. Between 90 and 95 is also 25% of the data. Also between 95 and 120 is another 25% of the data. And the last answer that would be correct here is between 120 and 130. Either of these 4 would be considered correct answers. What's the probability that a randomly selected data point would be in the range 85 to 120? Okay, this is basically doing experimental probability. Between 85 and 120 is this group here. That includes 3 sections that are 25% each. So that's a total of 75% of the data. So we would expect there to be a 75% probability that if you randomly selected one, it would be in that range. Okay, I guess the title of that's not really that important. Okay, for the box and whisker plot at the right, give the following information. What is the first quartile? The first quartile would be the low end of the box, 25. What's the second quartile, also known as the median? That would have to be the middle of the box, 36. What's the third quartile? That's going to be the top end of the box, 44. The range is going to be from 8 to 60, so we subtract and we get a range of 52. Next example. Match the description with the most reasonable box and whisker plot. Look for the median of this plot in the answer spaces. We're not going to do the answer space here anyway. We're just looking at trying to logically match these up. Let's look at season scores of a baseball team. Now, if you're familiar with baseball, the scores in baseball don't tend to be very high. In fact, I would go with this one for baseball. There was a time it looks like they had a maximum of 13 points. They did have some games with at least one game with 0 points and a median of about 5 points. That seems reasonable for a baseball score, for baseball scores. Next, resting heart rates and beats per minute. Now you should know from your studies of health that resting heart rates are going to be about a beat per minute, give or take, which would be 60, not a beat per minute, beat per second, which is about 60 per minute, which this one is the one that has those ranges. So we're going to go with this to be the resting heart rate. We've got some with higher resting heart rates and some with lower resting heart rates. My resting heart rate is usually between 55 and 60, which would put me in the bottom 25%. Okay, prices of a 25-inch television. Okay, there's only 2 of them left here. Do 25-inch televisions have prices that are in the teens, or are they more in the hundreds? I think they're more in the hundreds. So 25-inch TV. Looks like they're between $227 and $499. Of course, I think those prices are a little different today than when this worksheet was created. Let's look at the ages at a Boy Scout meeting. It looks like we have a leader that's 38, and most of the attendees are between 11 and 15. So this would be the Boy Scouts based on the shape of the data. Okay, just a couple more to look at. Here's the graduation rates in 50 states. Half of the states have graduations under what percent? All right, this you need to understand the 25% rules for all of these sections. Half of them are going to be below the median, so half of them are below 72% graduation rate. What does the box and whisker plot tell us about the data? Every state has at least 50% graduation, and it looks like the highest is 86% according to this data. I don't know if the data has changed since this was put together, but it can tell us a lot of things. The top 25% of states have 76% or more that graduate. There's a few things we could say here, of course. Let's look at this bottom one. The number of chart hits for the top female groups in the US are shown. About how many chart hits did the least half of the top groups have? Okay, the least half, that's kind of a weird way of saying it, but it's going to be the bottom half. They had between, what is that, 12 to 18. So I'm going to say 12 to 18. Less than 18. 18 is what the median is there. What does the box and whisker plot tell us about the data? It looks to me, based on its shape, the low end are really quite close together, and the more popular, better bands that have more chart toppers, they spread out a little bit more. They can really pull out from the pack. It does spread out more towards the top end. Okay, that's it for reading box plots. Thank you.